Season 1997-98, GM Vauxhall Conference, first champions, FA Cup 4th qualifying round, FA Trophy 2nd round. While George Mulhall and Kieran O'Regan set about building the squad for the forthcoming season, serious negotiations were underway regarding building work at the Shay, which needed to be completed if Halifax were to hope to return to the Football League by winning the conference. But following the traumas of the previous campaign, the chances of this seemed remote to say the least. Even the bookies, who rarely get it wrong, quoted odds of 66-1. The knowledgeable George Mulhall made a number of astute close season signings, not least that of the former Bradford City and Huddersfield Town defender Peter Jackson on a free transfer from Chester City. Two new fullbacks would transform into exciting wing-backs, Andy Thackeray Rochdale and Mark Bradshaw Macclesfield Town. There was also a welcome returns for the popular Craig Boardman, Stalybridge Celtic and Jamie Patterson, who arrived from Scunthorpe after his Falkirk adventure had not worked out. Andy Woods, however, walked out on the club, claiming he needed a year off. Mulhall enticed him back, but by then Lee Martin, signed from Rochdale, had made the goalkeeping position his own. After a promising series of friendlies, which included a 2-1 win over First Division Huddersfield, Halifax were given a tough start to the new season. Their first 3 games were all away from home, but they came through unscathed, capitalising on victory at Hayes with draws at Slough and Southport. The results may not have been spectacular, but they were the platform upon the rest of the season were built. Town's first win came over Welling, after which they hardly looked back. The 3-0 win at Telford had George Mulhall describing Town's display as awesome, and things just got better. Jeff Horsfield grabbed 2 goals in that match, but went one better in the next game against Yeovil, who were hammered 6-1 at the Shay in a game brought forward because of the funeral of Diana, Princess of Wales, the following day. I think Johnny might have made a mistake in his book here, because we beat Telford 6-1, not Yeovil. But Horsfield did score a hat-trick. Town were now top of the conference. Plans regarding the development of the Shay took a giant step forward during the half-time interval of that Yeovil game / Telford, when directors of Halifax Town and Halifax Blue Sox signed an agreement to share the Shay. Although no precise date had been given for the work to start on Phase 1, the Hunger Hill terracing, at least the signs were there that the progress was being made. The Shaymen carried on doing their bit on the field, not only beating all before them in the conference, with Horsfield scoring for fun, but also crushing all comers to the Shay in the FA Cup. Droylsden, Liaramai and Ossett Town were all easily accounted for, but when things appeared to be going well, obstacles still needed to be overcome, the first of which was the loss of influential Peter Jackson. When neighbours Huddersfield sacked their manager, Brian Horton, it was to Jackson that they turned as a replacement. Though approached before Town's home game with Kettering, Jackson played in that match and helped the Shaymen in a 3-0 win. But 2 days later he was installed as Huddersfield's new manager. Halifax were powerless to prevent it, as a clause had been written into Jackson's contract allowing him to leave should a managerial post come available, and the Huddersfield job was a dream for him. Even so, John Stockwell claimed Town had been mugged in the way that the Jackson deal was done. Was it a coincidence that Town should lose their first game without Jackson? It happened at Stalybridge in the Spalding Cup. Mulhall responded by signing the former Coventry and Newcastle defender Brian Kilcline. He had been released in the summer by Mansfield as a replacement for Jackson. Kilcline slotted in well, but questions were suddenly being asked of the Shaymen. After gaining a point at third place Morecambe, a game which saw 1,000 Town fans make the journey to Christie Park, Town were knocked off top spot following a heavy defeat at Cheltenham and bowed out of the FA Cup at Unibond League side Gainsborough Trinity. With hindsight, however, defeating the Cup may have been a blessing in disguise. The Shaymen soon got back on track, winning 5 of their next 6 matches to go 7 points clear, only to hit their second sticky patch in December. Defeat at Leek was followed by 3 successive draws, one of which was at bottom place Gateshead, managed by John Carroll. On the 5th of January, Blakedale Construction began work on Phase 1 of the ground development, the Hunger Hill end of the ground. But this soon turned into a race against time as the 31st of March deadline approached. Meanwhile, on the pitch, despite bowing out of the FA Trophy at the hands of Slough, in the Vauxhall Conference, Halifax Implay got on with the job of winning, and by the time they travelled to Rushden and Diamonds, they held a massive 10-point lead. This was shortened after Town, with Woods making a rare start, were cut to shreds and lost 4-0. Mulhall would never call upon Woods again. The Did You Know section for this chapter. In 1992-93, John McGrath's invented Benny the cat, saying there was no money to feed it. Torquay fans arrived with tins of cat food, so Town got a real cat. Town responded with wins at Dover and Yeovil and victory over Farnborough at the Shea to edge them nearer to their ultimate prize. In March, Mulhall added ex-Shea favourite Andy Kawamya to the squad, and he came on as a substitute as Town hammered Morecambe 5-1. This result set themselves up nicely for the visit of second-place Rushton 4 days later. Town blew Brian Talbot's side away with one of the most devastating displays of the season, not reflected in the 2-0 scoreline. Surely nothing could stop the Shaymen now. Making his only appearance for Town in that game was Stoke City's on-loan keeper Phil Morgan, who would come in for the injured Lee Martin. When Morgan was recalled by Stoke the following week, Mulhall went to Airdrie to capture the former Oldham keeper Andy Rhodes, and Rhodes played his part in the final assault. So too would Dave Hanson, who returned to the Shea from Leyton Orient at the beginning of April. On the 2nd of April came the news that all connected with Halifax Town were waiting for. Upon inspection of the completed North Terrace, Football League officials deemed it suitable and announced that, should Town win the conference, they would be accepted back. The capacity had been raised from just under 4,000 to 7,400. Chris Wally of the Football League Ground Grading Committee said, "This is clearly a forward-looking club, and we would welcome them into the league." Brackets Phase 2, the bus garage end, would be completed incidentally in October, close brackets. The new terracing was used for the first time against Woking, Town's 1-0 win putting them 13 points clear. The only conceivable threat now came from 5th place Cheltenham, who had a number of games in hand. But with Cheltenham enjoying a run in the FA Trophy, they would go on to win it. It was surely asking too much of them to make up the lost ground. And in any case, they had to rely on Town slipping up. The Shaymen nearly did against Southport on Easter Monday, but down to 10 men after O'Regan's sending off and trailing 2-3, Dave Hanson popped up with 2 late goals to win the match. Victory at Kidderminster 5 days later would mean the conference title, and with it promotion, was theirs. The task was duly completed in style, with Andy Rhodes saving a penalty before goals from Horsfield, inevitably, and Jamie Patterson sealing a 2-0 win in front of a travelling army of fans of over 1,500 strong. As a referee blew the final whistle, they poured onto the pitch, knowing that Town's 5-year exile was over. Understandably, the last 3 games proved to be anticlimactic. Town lost at Northwich but managed to keep their unbeaten home record intact, playing a 1-1 draw with Cheltenham prior to being presented with a conference trophy. Disappointingly, Town's season ended with a 260 feat at Welling, but Jeff Horsfield's goal ensured he finished as conference top scorer with 30 goals, one ahead of Rushton's Darren Collins. But at the moment of Town's finest hour, there were rumblings behind the scenes. 2 days after the Cheltenham game, Halifax announced a £20,000 sponsorship deal with the Nationwide Building Society. The players paraded the conference trophy on an open-top bus decked in Nationwide banners as they headed to the town hall for a civic reception. This understandably upset director Chris Holland, whose firm was still the club's official sponsors. Hall resigned from the board. Days later, reserve coach Dave Worthington also quit, claiming he had been snubbed at the civic reception. It almost went unnoticed that Gary Brooke, Brian Kilcline, Darren Lyons, Andy Kawamya, Andy Woods and later Noel Horner had all been released by the club. But at a time when they should have been basking in their glory, the worst of the troubles were just about to begin.